Look around you. Everything you see, every color, every face, every landscape, every word on a screen, it all feels immediate, obvious, as though the world simply enters your eyes and appears inside your mind exactly as it exists. But that isn't what happens, because the truth is far stranger. You have never actually seen the world directly. Not in the way you imagine. What you experience as reality is a reconstruction, an interpretation, a model assembled inside your brain from streams of electrical signals generated by two extraordinary organs no larger than ping-pong balls. And between the light that enters your eyes and the image you experience, an astonishing chain of events unfolds. A process so complex and so fast that it occurs hundreds of millions of times every second without you ever noticing. Because vision is not passive, it is one of the greatest engineering achievements in biology. Right now, photons that left the sun more than 8 minutes ago are entering your eyes, tiny packets of energy traveling across millions of kilometers of space. They strike objects around you and bounce in countless directions. A tiny fraction of those photons eventually reach your eyes, and that is where the journey begins. The outermost structure responsible for receiving light is the cornea, a transparent dome that covers the front of the eye. Although it appears simple, the cornea performs most of the eye's focusing power. As light passes through it, the rays begin to bend. This phenomenon, known as refraction, allows incoming light to converge toward a single point. Behind the cornea lies a chamber filled with fluid. Then comes the iris, the colored part of the eye. At its center is the pupil, a dynamic opening that continuously changes size. In bright environments, it narrows. In darkness, it expands, regulating the amount of light allowed to enter. Behind the pupil sits another remarkable structure, the crystalline lens. Unlike the fixed lenses found in cameras, the lens can change shape. Tiny muscles surrounding it alter its curvature, allowing the eye to focus on distant mountains, or on a word just centimeters away. This process is called accommodation. Together, the cornea and the lens guide light toward the back of the eye. But surprisingly, this is where the real miracle begins, because the retina is not simply a screen. It is living nervous tissue. In fact, it is an extension of the brain itself. Lining the inner surface of the eye is an incredibly sophisticated layer of neurons and sensory cells, and buried within that layer are two types of extraordinary photoreceptors, rods and cones. Rods are masters of darkness. They are incredibly sensitive to light, allowing us to see under dim conditions, but they cannot distinguish colors. Cones, on the other hand, function best in brighter environments. They allow us to perceive color and fine detail. Humans possess three types of cones, sensitive primarily to red, green, and blue wavelengths. The countless colors you experience arise from combinations of activity among these three populations. In the center of the retina lies a tiny region called the fovea. This area contains an extremely high density of cone cells and is responsible for our sharpest vision. Whenever you read, recognize a face, or focus on a distant object, you are using the fovea. Meanwhile, the peripheral retina sacrifices detail in exchange for greater sensitivity and motion detection. This balance allows us to perceive both precision and movement simultaneously. Yet here's the remarkable part. Photoreceptors do not see images. They detect photons, nothing more. When light strikes molecules inside rods and cones, it triggers a cascade of chemical reactions. Special proteins change shape. Ion channels open and close. Electrical signals are generated. This process is known as phototransduction, the conversion of light into neural information. But even then, no image exists. Not yet. Because before leaving the eye, those signals undergo extensive processing. Layers of retinal neurons begin extracting information. Edges, contrast, motion, brightness, patterns. Ganglion cells collect and organize this information into streams of electrical impulses. Their axons converge to form one of the most important cables in the human body, the optic nerve. Containing more than 1 million nerve fibers, the optic nerve carries raw data toward the brain. And this is where things become truly fascinating. Because the optic nerve does not transmit pictures. It sends coded information. Patterns of electrical activity, tiny pulses, neural language. The brain must interpret these signals and transform them into the experience you call sight. Inside the visual cortex, millions of neurons work together to reconstruct reality. Some specialize in detecting movement. Others recognize shapes. Others analyze depth, color, orientation, faces. Entire regions cooperate to assemble a coherent visual world. And all of this occurs so quickly that you perceive a seamless image. But the world your brain creates is not a perfect copy of reality. It is an interpretation, a prediction, a best guess based on incoming information. In fact, your brain constantly fills in missing details, corrects distortions, compensates for blind spots, and filters enormous amounts of unnecessary information. You are not seeing everything. You are seeing what your brain considers important. Perhaps the greatest example of this lies inside each eye. At the point where the optic nerve exits the retina, there are no photoreceptors. This region is completely blind. Yet you never notice the gap because your brain automatically fills it in, creating continuity where none actually exists. Visual illusions reveal this astonishing truth. Two people can observe the same image and perceive different things. Colors can appear to change depending on their surroundings. Static images can seem to move. Lines of equal length may appear unequal. Again and again, the brain demonstrates that perception is not a direct recording of reality. It is an active construction. In many ways, vision is less about recording reality and more about predicting it. And this construction depends on a delicate collaboration between the eyes and the brain. Even depth perception emerges from this partnership. Each eye sees the world from a slightly different angle. The brain compares both images and calculates distance, allowing you to judge space with astonishing precision. The system becomes even more extraordinary when we consider movement. Your eyes are never completely still. Tiny, involuntary motions constantly refresh the image, preventing sensory adaptation. Meanwhile, 6 external muscles continuously coordinate both eyes, ensuring that they move together with extraordinary accuracy. Without this synchronization, the world would appear double and chaotic. The pupils adjust to changing light. The lens alters focus. Photoreceptors adapt to brightness. Neural circuits recalibrate themselves continuously. Even after temporary blindness caused by intense light, the retina and brain rapidly restore balance. And remarkably, the visual system can continue functioning across an extraordinary range of conditions, from bright midday sunlight to the faint glow of distant stars. Yet vision also reveals the fragility of this remarkable machinery. Damage to the cornea can blur images. Problems with the lens can produce cataracts. Diseases affecting the retina may gradually steal sight. Glaucoma can damage the optic nerve. And injuries to the visual cortex can disrupt perception itself. Because seeing does not happen in the eyes alone. It requires the entire system. The eye, the optic nerve, the brain, working together as one. And perhaps the most astonishing fact of all is this: the colors you love, the faces you recognize, the stars above, the words you are reading right now. None of them exist inside your head as images. Only patterns of electrical activity, tiny impulses traveling through neurons. And somehow, from those signals, your brain creates something extraordinary. A living simulation, a personal reality, a universe assembled from light. And perhaps one of the greatest reminders that the world you experience is not simply the world that exists, but the world your brain has learned to build